Hello, new 8B students. This is your civics teacher, Mr. McGravy, for your civics in action class. This is a welcome video, not only from me as your civics teacher, but other people out in the civics world who we call civic actors. So they're really, really excited to kind of kick off the year with all of you. So one of the first people that I'm going to introduce and allow him to kind of talk to you briefly is Rick Gorman from the Youth Center, who I know most of you probably already know. But Rick is a civic actor. He plays a huge role in the community. And Rick has been very supportive of this civics program. The first year of the pilot, he came in live before the pandemic. And then we were able to do a recorded one last year during the pandemic. And then, of course, he has a podcast, and he's had me on the podcast a couple times to talk about all of you. So first thing I want to say is, Rick Gorman, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mr. McGravy, and thank you for allowing me to welcome this year's Civics kids.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. So the first thing I want to do is, they see you as the director of youth services and the person at the youth center, which is great. And, later on in the year, we're going to tell the story about the youth center being a civic project, civic action project, which we'll talk about later. But just let the kids know a little bit about what's your role in the civic world and in the community of North Andover. Where do you fit in?
Absolutely. So first of all, welcome to the North Andover Middle School kids. I'm excited for you this year in the civics program. I'm excited to be back for the third year involved with the civics program. So as all you know, I basically run the youth center here, but I've been here, believe it or not, 33 years. And we have built this program from scratch, where it was pretty much just me as a counselor, as someone that's a community psychologist, working with kids on change and working on how to change themselves, how to change the community. And over the years, we've evolved into building this beautiful youth center and providing, hundreds of services over the years for kids. So what we try to do is empower all of the young people that come through the doors here to be civics, what I call change agents. And for you guys to have a voice and to have a mission to make this community and your school and the community of North Andover a better place to live. And I'm going to work side by side with you. We'll work on leadership groups. We'll work on fun activities. But we'll work on having a relationship. And with the middle school kids, that's when we first really get to know you. And then as high school kids, you are part of our leadership program. Some of you actually work for us. So I am really interested to see how not only you can be very good civic change agents at the middle school, but how are you going to be civic change agents for the community of North Andover? And I'm going to be there every step of the way to help you. And obviously, I welcome you to have many discussions with me about these things. But I look forward to seeing you guys this school year when Mr. McGravy brings me back in to talk for another year.
Definitely. And definitely, Rick's definitely going to be coming in. And what's great, students, is that Rick has been a person that's been following the civics program very, very closely. The first year that we kicked it off, we did a podcast, and it was in its infancy. He saw it in the beginning stages. He saw it, during a pandemic last year. And of course, he got to kind of see last year what it ended up, which was 120 kids doing civic action, student-led civics projects called Slick Pro, which you're all going to be doing, way in April, May, and June. But the second question I'd really like to ask Rick is, so you've seen the civics program now going to its third year. You've talked to some kids. I think you've had some conversations with kids. You came in and saw kids with action and so forth. If you were an eighth grader, what do you think they should be looking forward to? Because I really want the students to know that I think this is going to be a class like no other, and I think they're going to get really pumped about it. I know it's a hard sell in September, but I'd love for you to just kind of talk about the program and what you think they could look forward to.
Yeah, kids, this is cutting edge stuff that Mr. McGravy and his peers are doing at the middle school. When this first was an idea or a concept, I was hook, line, and sinker. Not to criticize how we teach kids or what curriculum is like, but what I loved about the civics programs, it was real. You could really sink your teeth into it. You could make change. You could study different things and obviously come up with plans on how you can make things better for your community and your school. What I love about it, it's not going to be Mr. McGravy lecturing you and you just taking notes. It's going to be you're involved with it. You're going to be engaged. You're going to be architects of the different things that you do. And nothing more exciting to be a young middle school kid with a lot of passion to work on things. And you're going to have that ability to do that. I mean, I know in the first week, you're going to be like, what's this guy really talking about? I guarantee when I see you this spring, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So again, I'm excited for you. Makes me almost want to be a 14-year-old kid again and take the civics class with Mr. McGravy.
And thanks, Rick. And the last thing was best wishes, but your whole talk here has been best wishes to the kids. And like I said, students, it's really important that you get to know civic actors like Rick. When Rick comes in, or state representatives or state senators or the town manager, it's really important that you get to know who these people are, because you never know when you're going to be practicing civics or you want change, and it's really important to get to know everyone. So would you like to say anything to say goodbye just to wrap this up?
I would just like to say, first of all, everybody, welcome back to school. Hopefully we're going to be having much more of a normal year like we had 2 years ago. But I am going to tell you, I live by a rule of saying too much passion is never enough passion. And I want you to be passionate about this program and this class, because you may only be 14 years old, but you have a voice, you have power, and you can help make change. So how about you guys work with me and people like Pat McGravy, and let's just make this town even better than it is. I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Couldn't have ended it better myself. Students, you're going to be seeing another civic actor in the next part of this clip, and you're even going to be seeing some of my former students who are going to tell you about their year. So lots to look forward to, and we'll see you soon. Hello again, civic students. This is Mr. McGravy again. This is a welcome video for this year's class, which is called Civics in Action. And what we're doing today is I just really want to get you all excited about the year. So I'm having supporters who I call civic actors in the world, whether it be state, local, or federal, and they've been involved with the pilot through a few years. And I know you were able to hear in the last one from Mr. Gorman. And today we have Mr. Mark DeSalvo, who is the moderator of town meeting. And first of all, Mark, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing grand. Always a delight to see your smiling face at the end of summer, and know that you're looking forward to having your students in your thrall over the course of the next year as well.
Thanks, Mark. So Mark has worked all 3 years with me. This is the 3rd year of the civics pilot. So Mark has been a presence for all 3 years. So he has seen it grow and evolve. Mark was also very active with me prior to the civics pilot, when I was doing U.S. history and doing a little bit of civics, and we had a civics day. And Mark was always one of the speakers and talked to the kids about that. It was very interesting that this spring, although we didn't have civics day because of the pandemic, we did have a civic exposition of learning, and Mark was one of the panelists, and he got to see my students, who are now in 9th grade, really do a project and become very civically engaged. So I think, Mark, the first thing I'd like to do is, some of the students know you and some of them don't. So I'd like to just throw out the first question about who are you? What is your role in the civic world, or your role in the community of North Andover?
I've always worked as an activist from the time I was a student in the very building that your students are in right now, where I went to high school. and have worked throughout all levels of government, federal, state, and locally, including working in presidential campaigns all around the country for several of our presidents of the United States, and several who didn't get elected president as well. But all of them are important. Here in North Andover, town meeting, which is my principal responsibility, is the oldest form of government in the United States and the only remaining form of direct participatory democracy in the entire world. My role as the elected moderator is to conduct the meeting, and I happen to hold the oldest continuing elected office in our nation since colonial times. North Andover has elected a town moderator every year since 1646. Every year since 1646. Of course, back then, as your students may know and will certainly learn, that one at that time needed to be a white, land-owning male of a certain religion in order to vote at town meeting. Thankfully, today, that is no longer the case. And that anywhere from hundreds to as many as 3,000 people have participated in the town meetings that I've conducted in the last decade. You today, you as students today, have the right to participate in town meeting by adding your voice and being able to influence what is discussed because of my innovations to keep town meeting current and relevant, even though you're not yet even eligible to vote. Personally, I look forward to discussing this when we all next gather. Your voice is vital, and anyone who tells you otherwise is not telling you the truth. Enjoy a wonderful school year and endeavor always make a difference. You count.
Thank you, Mark. And students, we are going to have Mark come in live or virtually, depending on how things go, once we start getting into the fall of trimester 1. But Mark did come in live for the first year, and he did come in virtually. So he has spoken to 8B Civics students for many, many years. And he not only talks about town meeting, he talks about working on presidential campaigns. In fact, last year, he was working on President Biden's campaign, and he was talking to the students about that. And it was really, really excited as we were doing our election unit. And Mark has also really helped me learn about a historical figure who many of you have heard of, but maybe do not know, and that is William Sims. If you remember in the 6th grade, Sims House, and this is something that's definitely going to be coming on down the line later. I've been working this summer in conjunction with Mark, and we're in the process of planning something really, really special for you that I think you're really, really going to enjoy. Okay, so Mark, the second thing that I'd like you to touch upon, if you don't mind, is you kind of knew me as a history teacher during Civics Day before the Civics pilot. You were there right at the beginning for year 1 and then the pandemic. And then for year 2, you were able to kind of see a full year of the Civic pilot. And then you were actually able to be a panelist for the Civic Action or the student-led civic projects called Slick Pro. So it's great that you've been a supporter, and it's so great that you have perspective on this journey going into its 3rd year. So what I'd like you to say is, as someone who's seen this civics course in action, what do you think the students can look forward to for the upcoming year? If you were an 8th grader and you knew what was coming, what are some things that you think that they could look forward to?
3 things. First, learning things in a different fashion, being participatory. It's very much experiential. Number 2, influencing what you learn. I've discovered that you can influence what you expect your teacher, Mr. McGravy, to educate you on. And third, you will be educating him and the rest of the community. One of the things I loved about Slick Pro was exactly that notion, that people got to influence what their community, what your school community, the whole town, even in one circumstance, the nation, ought to be considering. So you can have influence today. It's just not learning something because it's written a book. You get to write the script.
That's a cool way of putting it. And Mark, and I have referenced something called the Slick Pro, and that's the student-led civics project that you're all going to be doing April, May, and June. And this is where you pick a topic that's very interesting to you, and you research it, and you reach out. And I had students reach out to the town manager, administration, and some of those students who did Slick Pros that are willing to talk about it are going to be on this video later on. So you can look forward to seeing your peers, people that aren't maybe even a year older than you, really do something and apply what they learned to their life. So thank you so much for welcoming my students. I don't know if you want to wrap things up with some best wishes or just kind of sign off. That would be great, Mark.
I look forward to learning from you, because we can all learn from each other. And most importantly, seeing those excited faces who dawn sometimes for the first time that they can not only have influence, but they can be consequential as well. And each of us have the opportunity to be consequential and make a difference.
Thank you, Mark. And students, I just can't tell you, doing this for 3 years, how fortunate we are to live in North Andover and have this community and have all of these people who have very busy schedules, like Mark and Rick and the town manager, just completely put things aside during the week and are willing to welcome you with open arms and come into school and be there to support you. So there are a lot of people that are going to be supporting you this year. All right, so students, be prepared for the next section of this welcome video. And Mr. DeSalvo, I thank you as always for being a supporter of the program.
And thank you, Pat, for your stewardship and leadership.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Hi, 8B students. This is Mr. McGravy again. We are continuing this welcome video just to show you all the supporters that you have in North Andover that are going to be working with us all year in the Civics in Action class. So far, you've really only heard from some local government people, Mr. Gorman and Mr. DeSalvo. And now I'm really happy that we're going to have someone from state government, and that is State Representative Christina Minokuchi. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Excellent.
Hi,
all right, cool. So State Representative Minokuchi and I have known each other for a very long time. She grew up in North Andover just like me. She went to the middle school just like you all did and I did. And she is a state representative. And Christina has been working with me before the civics pilot. We did something called Civics Day. And Christina came in and with Representatives Trom Wynn, who you're going to hear from, and Senator Dosaglio, and they gave an amazing talk. And then when the civics pilot came in 2 years ago, she came in live and did a talk, which was great. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we were able to do a few things virtually. And hopefully this year, we're going to be doing some other things, whether it be live or virtual. But the cool thing about Christina is she has seen the growth of this program. This is going into the 3rd year of the pilot, and she's putting on her state representative hat now. But in year 1, she was a parent. I had her son Fritz in the 1st year of the pilot, and he was definitely someone that really enjoyed the class. So it's really cool that she's there as a parent and as a community member. So the first question I'm going to ask you, Christina, is who are you? What is your role in the civic world? Tell the kids a little bit about your job and the role that you have.
Sure. Well, you did such a good job introducing me. And you failed to mention that I went to Kittredge School too, like you did. So that was an exciting part of my past.
With my brother.
That's
you were
right.
in his class.
We were in
Absolutely.
the same kindergarten class.
Absolutely.
So I am the state representative I represent most of North Andover, but I also represent parts of Lawrence, Methuen, and Haverhill. So a little bit of everything. At the last census, which we just did, I have about 45,000 constituents that I represent. So anybody who lives in the borders of my district is my constituent. And a little bit of what I do, I always say I've got kind of like 3 prongs to my job. And one is I help people with constituent services. They have a problem and they need to connect with someone in state government, if it's insurance or unemployment, food insecurity, whatever it might be, housing, I help. That's one part of my job, and that's been a really big part of my job in COVID. And the second part of my job is legislation, which is really the critical part of the job, right? That's what we get elected for as legislators, to help pass laws to make the life of our constituents better. So not just my own constituents, but people all across the state. And then the third part of my job is doing fun stuff like this. So going and visiting classes and going to events and presenting citations and really just getting to know the community and being a member of the community. So those are sort of the 3 parts of my job.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. So the next thing that we're going to get into is students. As I said, Christina was a parent for the first year of the pilot of the DKP curriculum with her son, Fritz. And we were really, really doing very, very well. The curriculum was going amazingly well. We actually went to the EMK Institute for the U.S. Senate, and Representative Minokuchi, along with one of my former students, Caitlin Parks, met us there. And that was, I believe, the 12th of March, 2020. And they have not had a student group since then because of COVID. So COVID hit, things went virtual. And then, of course, as you all know, in 7th grade, it was a crazy year last year, but we were able to get through all of the curriculum last year. And the thing that I keep talking about is the SLIC Pro, the student-led civics project. And the cool thing about this is Christina knows about this project because two students reached out to her on a Google Meet about their topic. So she saw that, and she was a panelist at the SLIC Pro Expo, and she got to see a bunch of projects, some really cool things that you're all going to be doing in the spring. So Christina, what I would like you to do right now is just, you've seen how everything's changed, you know quite a bit about the program. What do you think these kids should look forward to? What are some things that you think they're going to really enjoy throughout the year? Because I know you're a huge supporter of this program.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things about this program is that it's hands-on. So you spend a lot of time coming up with ideas and actually coming up with ways of putting them into action. I know that for my son, he was disappointed that the year was disrupted, but he was hoping to actually be able to put his plan in action. It was something he cared about. He wished that the middle school had a really strong newspaper, and he was hoping to be able to get that up and running. That's civics. Everybody thinks that civics is making laws at the state level or going down to Washington and being in Congress, but civics is every little thing we do around school, whether it's the parents who put the composting into play with a bunch of students. They did that right in the cafeteria at the middle school and Thompson School and some of the other schools. That's civics. Or maybe wanting to start a new club at school. That's also civics. I know when I was in 8th grade, I actually was selected to be a leader at the middle school, one of our peer leaders. And one of the things we did was we built a school store because we wanted a school store. And we had to go through the process of getting permission and fundraising and putting it in action. Then we got to work in it. That's civics, and all of that is civics, and we can be civic actors in so many ways. And I think that this project is so exciting for students because you get to see how your voice, no matter how small, can make an enormous difference. And when you put your ideas, when you really dig in and work hard, you can really make anything happen. So.
And Christina, obviously Fritz didn't get to do that, which is very disappointing. And students, there are remnants of this store. If you go into the cafeteria near the 8th grade wing, there's this little room that sticks out with a big window and a door to the side. That was the school store when the building was rebuilt in '97. So it's still there. It's still there. So Christina, if you wouldn't mind, I had Mr. DeSalvo on, and he was talking about the Slick Pro Expo and what he saw. What did you see from those two young ladies that you met with on the Google Meet? Not specifics about their project, but what did you see, and what did you see at the Slick Pro Expo in terms of what these kids are going to do? What were your impressions?
Well, first of all, they all did a lot of research. They really dug into the topics. They were passionate about the topics. So I think that's really the first thing, right? When it comes to coming up with a good project, what are you passionate about? Doesn't matter what it is, but it's important to have passion about it, because you do have to put in a lot of work. You have to do the research. You have to go out and really have to be persuasive, maybe in your argument. And so the more passion you have about the project, the easier it is to do. It doesn't feel like work anymore. So they were definitely passionate about their projects, had done a lot of research. They were very persuasive in their presentations. You could tell that maybe giving presentations may not have been the thing that they were most excited to do. Maybe they were even a little bit nervous about it. But once they got talking about things that mattered to them, it came very easily. And because they had done so much work, they weren't nervous, because they weren't reading a speech even necessarily. They knew this stuff in and out. There was no question. And so I think they all maybe were a little tentative at the beginning of the year, thinking, wow, this is going to be scary. And in the end, they said, this was the most fun I've ever had. So I think that, the transition from day one, thinking that this was going to be a big, overwhelming project, it ended up just being something fun that they got to do and explore things they were passionate about, instead of just something that was on the curriculum they had to do. So it was really fun.
So I think that encapsulates the Slick Pro beautifully. Just to kind of review what you said, beginning of the year, you're first of all students, you're all like, what the heck is civics? What is this class? This class is going to be very different than what you're used to. There's no textbook. There's not packets. It's very, very different. And then it's very intimidating to think about this project. It's not like a science fair. Not that a science fair isn't great. It's very, very different, and you get to pick it. And as Christina just said, I know when you hear the word research, you're rolling your eyes, but when you're researching something that you're interested in and you're passionate about, it takes on a completely different way of thinking. And that's what we're going to be doing this year. And I'm really, really glad that we have people. Like I said previously, students, you are very lucky to live in the community of North Andover, because all of these people that are in this welcome video are really interested in what you're doing. And it's a great thing. Okay, so Christina, the last thing is just, you can sign things off and wish them all well. And I'm sure they're going to see you in some capacity this year on a Google Meet or hopefully live. So please wrap this up. This was awesome.
Well, I would just say, have a great year. Enjoy. Mr. McGravy is fun and exciting and engaging, and you won't be bored. I know you'll see me again. Some of you might see me at cross country practice at Tuesday at 3:45 or 2:45. But I'm really excited to be able to come and join you and see what these projects are going to look like, because it really doesn't matter, like I said, how small your voice might seem today. Every voice matters. Every voice makes a difference. And I'm here to serve you. So I'm happy. I can't wait and excited for this year.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, students, looking forward to another one coming next. I believe Senator Dosaglio is going to be joining us to, welcome you all to 8B Civics in Action, and we will see you soon. Thank you all so much. Hello, 8B students. This is Mr. McGravy again. We are having another civic actor speak to you today in this welcome video. This is someone from the Massachusetts Senate, as opposed to the House of Representatives. So this is Senator Diana Dosaglio. Diana, would you like to say a quick hello to everyone?
Hi, North Andover Middle School. We love you, miss you. I look forward to seeing you at some point this year, hopefully sooner than later.
Excellent. So, students, you're seeing a lot of civic actors come in, and I have to be perfectly honest, my civic connection with The senator is the longest of any of the people that we're going to be working with. Many, many years ago, way before the civics pilot, when I was teaching U.S. history, I had an 8th grade student named Caitlin Parks who really wanted well, at the time, she was the state representative then, to come in and talk to the kids. So Senator Dosaglio and I and this student, Caitlin, started this thing called Civics Day. And it was before the civics pilot, and people would come in and speak, and it was this amazing thing. And Diana has been with me through the first and second year of the pilot. She's seen it from the beginning all the way to last spring. So I'm really glad to have her here because I think she has such a perspective in terms of what the program's done. So Diana, the first thing I'd like you to do is maybe some of the students don't know you. Just introduce yourself. What is your role in the civic world? Just kind of tell us where you fit in civics.
Well, my name is Diana Dosaglio. I am your state senator, and it is my honor to have received this invitation to join you today. Welcome to Mr. McGravy's class, the best class ever. You are all incredibly lucky to have such an amazing teacher. I'm actually jealous that I don't get to participate in this class with you this year. So I just want to wish you well and say you're going to have a great time. My role as a state senator is to take ideas, put them down on paper, and advocate for the passage of those ideas to become law. A bill is nothing more than an idea that somebody has about what should be a law in Massachusetts. And I'm the person that you come to talk about that. So if you have an idea, for example, if you want the state color to be green or purple or red or whatever you want, you would come to me and say, hey, Senator Dosaglio, I have an idea. I'd love for the state color to be red, purple, yellow. And I would take that idea, I'd put it down on paper, I would file it in the system, and then I would go up on Beacon Hill and I would advocate on your behalf for that to become the law. We know about a lot of laws. We know about laws regarding driving, when you're going to be able to get your license, whether or not we're allowed to have fireworks in Massachusetts, whether or not there are seatbelts on school buses, all of these different things that you know about on a daily basis, but you might not really think about. Those are laws here in Massachusetts, and I am the person that you come to talk to about those laws, and if you want to see changes or updates to those laws. I also advocate on your behalf for funding for your community. So you are all public school students. You are in classrooms virtually and physically where you're able to receive an education through taxpayer dollars. Those taxpayer dollars come from your family, from your parents, from anybody in your family that's working. They are paying taxes. That money comes into the state, and folks like myself decide where it gets spent. I'm a big advocate for funding public education to make sure that you all receive the best education possible. So we vote on funding. We vote on funding for the youth center, for your fire department, for your police department, for your roads and bridges, and for your public schools and more. So that's just a little bit of what we do. But we also have a good time and we get to participate in civics classes. And this is my favorite part of the job. So I'm really excited to be here today. And I will let Mr. McGravy get on to his next question.
Great. So students, at some point, whether it be virtual, hopefully live, Senator Dosaglio will be coming in. And we did these civics in action talks before the pandemic, and it was great to have her in for you to interact, because part of civics is not only learning the process, like the senator just talked about, of how a bill becomes a law, but it's having interactions and discussions with these civic actors like Senator Dosaglio. And, when I was in school, unfortunately, I didn't have that same kind of experience. I didn't even, I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't know who my state senator was. And you're having an opportunity to meet her. So it's really important that you take advantage of that. Through the years, some of my former 8th grade students have been interns for Senator Dosaglio. So you just never know what's going to happen. The civic world is a really cool place. All right. So second question is, as I said, You have been with me before the Civics pilot for Civics Day. You were there for year 1. You came in year 2 virtually. And then I was so excited that your team met with one of my students for their Slick Pro, their student-led civics project. And then you were a panelist on the Slick Pro Expo just in June. So you actually got to see students doing this Slick Pro that my students are hearing about. So what I'd like you to do is, could you just share your impressions with my students about what you saw, what were your impressions? And you said you wanted to be in the class, and that would be cool, but what should they look forward to? So if you could touch upon any of those, that'd be great, Senator.
Yeah, you're just going to have a blast. Look, a lot of classes have ups and downs regarding, what your favorite time of the class is and your least favorite time of the class is. But I will say with Mr. McGravy and this opportunity that you have, you're going to have an opportunity to be actively engaged with real leaders in your community and to learn through conversations, interactions, rather than just reading about it in a textbook, right? I mean, we all know that when you go to school, there's a lot of reading, and that's cool. But what's even more exciting is the opportunity to actually meet people that are doing those jobs right now. We learn about history. We learn about former presidents. We learn about, what happened in the past and dates of wars or, just lifetime big events that were historical in nature. But we don't often get to meet with people that are actively making history, so to speak, in our communities at the present time. And that's what I think is really cool about Mr. McGravy's class, where, I didn't have that opportunity when I was in school. I didn't get to meet with mayors and town managers and city councilors and senators and congressmen. I didn't even really know who those people were, to be honest with you, nor did I really care. And I didn't really understand, why it was important to get to know them. You're going to learn about all the reasons why it's so important that you know who your leaders are, that you know what their roles are, because it really does impact you on a daily basis. Again, we talk about things like getting your driver's license. Those are things that we have votes on. Whether or not you wear a seatbelt in the car, texting and driving. Again, we'll go back to fireworks in Massachusetts. These are all things that your elected officials have decisions on, and they impact your daily life. They impact your family's life. And that's why it's so important that you know who your leaders are, so you can contact them, so you can make that connection, and so that your voice can be heard, because your voice is important. And I actually think, Mr. McGravy, that's like the number one thing I would say that I want your students to get out of this, is that your voice matters. And that is the point of this entire class, is to let you know that and to empower you to use your voice. Yes, you're going to meet all these elected officials. Yes, you're going to learn about what we do. But more importantly, this is about you understanding what these roles are and what their impacts are in the community, so that you can more effectively use your voice for the issues that are important to you and to your loved ones, to make sure that the issues you care about are acted upon in the community. So I just want to say you're going to have a great time. Once again, I'm jealous, but just expect to have fun. Have fun, use it as a great learning opportunity, but also use it as a way to get to know yourself and other people in our community a little bit better.
That's great. And students, this is the second speaker or the second guest or friend or ally, whatever we want to call them, all of those things, that has said, this is not a traditional class. So what you've had in history and social studies classes, this is going to feel very different this week. There's no textbook, there's no packets, there's no lecturing, none of that. So it's going to feel really different. And I know it's very intimidating when a senator says you have a voice, but you really, really do. And it's important for you to express that voice. And what civics is the system in which you express your voice. And we're just going to kind of fine tune that. And just one more quick thing, if you don't mind, Diana, what were your impressions? I mean, because one of your team members met with one of my students about a very, passionate topic, and it was so great. Your staff was amazing meeting with her on a Google Meet. What were your impressions being a panelist on the Slick Pro Expo? You gave a lot of great feedback. you seemed, it seemed like you were very impressed. What were your impressions? Because I know right now kids are like, I have to do this project, but what were your impressions of the kids you heard and what they were doing and the experience for them?
Look, it's a learning experience. And I know some of the students seem like they were a little bit nervous to present to the panel. But we all know that it's a learning experience. And our number one goal is that while you're doing this, you're having a good time getting to understand the process. And you're choosing an issue that's important to you, that deeply matters to you, that you want to help with in the community. It's not about perfection, it's about making progress. So any effort that you put towards assisting any area in our community is going to be a worthwhile effort. It's going to be something that we're grateful for. So I just want to say thank you in advance. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's about making progress. When I pass bills in the state legislature and in the state Senate, and when I get up to give speeches, they're not always perfect. I'm just going to admit that right now. Sometimes I make a mistake. Sometimes I'll say a sentence backwards and have to go back and restate the sentence. Sometimes I might get a data point wrong and have to adjust and say, excuse me, I actually got that data point wrong. This is the actual data point, or this is the actual percentage. It's okay. It's a learning process. But the important thing is that you care, that you love your community, and that you're putting your best foot forward. And if you make a mistake, just keep going and try to, make sure that, you're expressing why you're there, which is just to advocate. You want to advocate because you care. Not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
That's great. And students, I know, last year when I told the students they'd be doing a student-led civics project, there was a lot of anxiety. And I just want to assure all of you that the project is going to be with what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with just sending an email or making a video, that's great. If you want to do a Google Meet, is a wide variety of how you can be involved. So I just want to, and it's really great that Senator Dosaglio can kind of share with you that, that anxiety is real for all of us, for me as a teacher, for a state senator. So it's something that we all go through. And so at any point during the year, if you are feeling anxious, join the club, because we all feel that way in what we do.
Join the club.
Join the club.
Join the club. Look, when I am talking on the Senate floor and I'm advocating for an important issue for North Andover, there are reporters around typing every single thing that I say. And let me tell you, sometimes I, completely push it out of my head and it's not a big deal. But other times, you do get a little bit nervous because you want to make sure that you're articulating what you want to say appropriately. So there is a healthy way to allow that to inspire you to do a good job while also not taking yourself too seriously and understanding that, you're doing the best that you can, and preparing actually is the best way to make progress. Okay, so make sure that you're prepared as much as possible, and then once you get up there, say, look, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress. But definitely prepare. Preparation is key. And have fun. We're gonna have
absolutely.
So
this is great. So what I'm just going to let you do is, Senator, I'm going to let you wrap this up. I'm going to let you, give well wishes to my 123 students, and I'll let you sign off. And thank you again so much for being here and part of this welcome video. I couldn't have made it without you. So thank you.
Sending you all my best. I hope you have a great time. I know you'll have a great time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Mr. McGravy's class very soon. Thanks so much, North Andover Middle School. We'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you so much, students. And this is the end of this portion. And there'll be another one coming soon. Thank you so much. Hello, students. It's me again, Mr. McGravy, your civics teacher. One of the most common, and I'm not going to do it to this year, but one of the most common trick questions that I always ask my students is, I'll say, I'll give you $100 if you can tell me who the mayor of North Andover is. And every year I would do this, and every year, kids would, boom, boom, boom. And then, of course, it is a trick question, because I'm sure most of you know, we do not have a mayor. We live in a town. We have a town manager who is appointed and not elected. So we have with us the town manager of North Andover, Melissa Murphy Rodriguez. So Melissa, I'd like to say hello to you and welcome.
Hello, Mr. McGravy. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, pleasure. So students, once again, the purpose of this video is to welcome you all to civics class and let you know that besides me and besides your parents, you have a huge support network of people that are cheering you on. And we're very fortunate to live in a town where all of the local, state, and federal officials support us in what we do. So Melissa has been, it was funny, the first year of the pilot, the DKP curriculum pilot, coincided to Melissa getting hired. So when Melissa was hired, I somehow got her email and she was on the job, I think, for like not even 2 weeks. And she came into the class and did a great talk about civic agency, and, you know, kind of kicked off the civics pilot. And I was very, very fortunate to have her. And then last year, you know, and even during the pandemic, we did like a video together, kind of April, right deep in the heart of it. And then virtually she came to the class last year to do a presentation for the kids. And then I was so lucky enough to have her be a panelist for the Slick Pro Expo to see what students were doing. So I think the first question I have for you, Melissa, is who are you? What is your role? Kids that haven't been to town hall, where do you fit in the civic world?
Sure. Mr. McGravy, my name is Melissa, like you said, and I am the town manager here in North Andover. I have been here for almost 2 years, 2 years in September, actually. But I've been working in civics for a really long time. When I got out of law school, I started working in a city, and then I was town manager in another town too before I came here. And so, you know, I'm a little bit of a civics nerd, I would say, but in a really good way. And it's something that I really enjoy. So I'm always really excited to be here with you. Where I fall into government basically is that I am the administrator for the town. So sometimes I like to think about it like a regular corporation, like if you thought of Coca-Cola, and there is a board of directors, there is shareholders, and then there is the executive. So the shareholders is the residents, right? Town meeting. The board of directors is the select board, and then the CEO is me. And my job basically is to bring forward all of the administrative actions. So town meeting makes the laws, the select board makes the policies, and my job is to make sure that the town government is complying with those policies and those laws.
Excellent. Great synopsis. And students, we are going to learn a lot more about local government in terms of what Melissa does and the select board and the school committee and Superintendent Gilligan. It's a really cool thing. But unlike when I went into school, the town manager, Melissa, was this way distant concept that I memorized and just had no idea I did not know who the town manager was when I went to NAMS. So what's different about this program is whether you like it or not, you're going to meet Melissa, and you're going to actually, as some of you might even be reaching out to Melissa. And that brings us to the second question. So Melissa, it was really cool timing that you came in right during the first year of the DKP pilot. And so you got to kind of see it in its infancy. And the second year, through the pandemic, you were involved. We were able to teach the entire curriculum, even though we were on Google Meets and the hybrid. And then the coolest thing for me, and I think you also enjoyed, is there were two of my students in their Slick Pro, their civics action project. They actually reached out to Melissa. And they had a Google Meet that I facilitated, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't even have to be there, really. So she was able to be involved in two projects, and she came to the Slick Pro Expo. She was on a panel where she was able to give feedback. So Melissa has kind of gone through the entire journey. So Melissa, what I would like you to do is just talk about your impressions of the pilot. What are you thinking of it? And then put yourself in my students' shoes, knowing what's coming for them. What should they look forward to? What are some things that you could tell them about? So if you wanted to touch upon any of those, Melissa, I would love to hear your impressions.
Well, first of all, I'll say that you're very lucky because this is not my 7th and 8th grade civics class that I took back in the day where we just memorized what town government looked like and what the structure of government is. Because in this class, you get to be agents, you get to be actors, you get to ignite change. And that's really exciting. Mr. McGravy is such a passionate advocate for what you guys are doing. He actually hunted me down at my last job to invite me to come on the
I did do that. I'll admit it.
So you should be really happy that you get to go through this with him because he's very special. My favorite part of the civics program is getting to know all of you, right? And I spend an awful lot of time in town hall in this building I'm in right now. I don't get to spend that much time interacting with the students. And so that's my favorite part of what we do. But I will say that my probably best moment of this entire year was meeting with the 2 students in the civics class, because they were amazing and so inspirational. And they both had totally different projects, and they both were advocating for what they believed in and were able to so eloquently express to me in a way that many adults can't what they want, what they need, what they believe, and how they can trigger change. And all of you are going to be able to do that too. And Mr. McGravy is going to help you get there. So I think that's really exciting. I think that it's going to be a great learning experience, but it's also going to be a great growing experience. And that by the time you graduate at the end of this year, you're going to have a whole new skill set that you didn't have before.
That's great. And, these 2 students, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, keeping them anonymous. In September, these were students that were great, wonderful kids, but they were kids that didn't raise their hand. They were kids that maybe were a little anxious. They were the kids that liked to blend in to the end of the classroom or not put their cameras on in Google Meets. And if you had told me in September that these kids would be on camera on a Google Meet with the town manager, I would have said, there is no way that's going to happen. So I know there's a lot of you who are very outgoing and are very confident, and that's wonderful. But to my students watching this video who are shy or anxious and maybe are hearing about this civics project and they're like, oh, dear Lord, do I have to do this? I'm here to reassure you, and Melissa's here to reassure you that this is a program for everyone. It is not a program for one type of kid. And I'm so glad that Melissa brought up those 2 students because they're really what's great about this program, that it can reach so many different kids. So thank you for bringing that up. And I just wanted to briefly touch upon the Slick Pro Expo. What was it like seeing other kids present their projects to you in June? What were your impressions of that event? What did you think, of the presentations that you were able to see?
I think what I liked most about it was that we were able to brainstorm together, right? And so a lot of the time, you don't get that. You don't get that collaboration. And so you had people coming forward with problems, issues that they see, but not just saying this is the problem, right? But this is how I think we should change it. This is what I think the outcome needs to be. And then together, we could figure out how we get there, right? And so that's a lot of what town government is, especially here, right? We have a town meeting form of government. We work collaboratively through committees to achieve goals and get things done. And we were doing that live through your class, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And students, we're going to have my former students who are now in 9th grade, they're making a separate video to talk about the program, because I know it's important that Melissa and I sell you the curriculum and tell you how great it is. But I think it's really, really important for you to hear it from your peers. And you are going to hear that from your peers in a separate video. Okay, so Melissa, this was a really short Civics in Action talk for the video, but I'm just going to let you end this, and I'm going to just let you just offer your best wishes and get the final word to my 8B Civics students going into the 3rd year of the pilot.
Sure. I guess first I'll address those shy, anxious kids that are coming back. I still get a stomach ache before town meeting, right? And I've been doing this a long time, but my stomach's rumbly when I'm getting ready to get up there and talk. And so I think that's normal, but it also makes you better at what you're doing because you really care. So, embrace that anxiety, embrace those feelings, but have them help you succeed. And to all of you, I am looking forward to meeting many of you this year. I'm looking forward to finding out what makes you tick, and also looking forward to learning from you, right? It's not all about us talking at each other. A lot of it's about listening. And so if we can work together and I'm listening to you and you're listening to me, we can make real change. So let's do that.
Thank you so much. And students, we're going to talk a lot about civic allies, which are people in the civic world that, you know, you agree or disagree with sometimes, but they're there to help you. And one of my biggest allies is definitely the town manager. You know, I'm so happy to have a connection with her and this relationship that continues to blossom and grow as we go through into the pilot. Okay, so students, I am going to get ready for the next guest that's here to welcome you. And again, Melissa, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Ms. McGravy.
All right. Hi, Civics in Action students. Once again, it's your civics teacher, Mr. McGravy, 8B Civics in Action class. And this is yet another civic ally from the community that is here to welcome you to civics class and really encourage and engage you and help you. So this is State Representative Andy Vargas. Good afternoon, Representative Vargas. How you doing?
Good afternoon. It's great to be here with you, Mr. McGravy.
Excellent, excellent. So students, Representative Vargas does represent Haverhill, but he does have a connection to our class because he came in live before the pandemic. He came in virtually. He was on a group of people that were critiquing and giving feedback on the civic action projects, the Slick Pros. So Representative Vargas has been with me for all 3 years or 2 years of the pilot, now going into its third. The other thing about Representative Vargas that we're going to talk about later is he does have a very, very deep connection to civic education, which I would like to touch upon very, very briefly. Andy, the first thing I want is I'm just kind of having you introduce yourself. Maybe some of the students know you, maybe some of them don't, but basically what is just tell us a little about yourself and what is your role in the civic world? Just very generally.
Sure. Great question. So my name is Andy Vargas. As Mr. McGravy has shared, I'm the state representative for the 3rd Essex District, which is entirely within the city of Haverhill. I am a member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives. And similar to how you learned about the different branches of government, you have your executive branch, you have your legislative branch, and you have your judicial branch. And oftentimes when we talk about those branches, we talk about the federal government and those branches, right? We talk about Congress as the legislative branch. We talk about the president as the executive branch and the Supreme Court as the judicial branch. At the state level, we have a similar setup, right? The executive is the governor. The legislative branch is the state legislature. So you have your own Massachusetts House and Massachusetts Senate. And then you also have the courts here in Massachusetts that represent the judicial branch here in Massachusetts. So that same 3 prongs that you learn about at the federal level applies to the state level. And so my job is to be a part of the Massachusetts House of Representatives and represent the people of my district. Now, what does that mean, right? What does represent the people of my district mean? It broadly means 3 things in my job function. Number 1 is to pass laws that make life better, ideally for those constituents in my district. And constituents is a fancy way of saying people that I represent, people that live where I live and live where I represent, and that vote in my elections, or don't vote in my elections, but just so happen to live in those districts. So pass legislation is one of them that make life better. Pass an annual budget, right? There's an annual budget of the state of $49 billion. So every year, the state legislature decides on how we're going to spend that money. And that is your money. That is your family's money. Those are tax dollars that citizens pay to the state. And it's our job to make sure that we're investing them in things like schools, roads, bridges, water, all the things that we take sometimes for granted. It's our job to make sure that the funding is going where it needs to go so that we can have the strongest society possible. And then the third prong of my job is called constituent services. And that is simply being a resource for the people in my district when they're having challenges or problems in their lives or with navigating state government. And so an example of that is if we get a call about somebody who's about to become homeless, right? It's our job to navigate all the different agencies and resources that exist at the state level or in the nonprofit world to make sure we try to prevent that person from being homeless and getting them into shelter somehow. So those are the three prongs of my job. It's legislation, passing bills that make life better, budget, passing an annual budget that ensures that we're investing in things that actually can improve lives and create opportunity and dignity for everybody, and constituent services.
Thank you. And you actually checked off about 3 boxes in the frameworks for me, Andy. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. And speaking of frameworks, I think that's a good connection. Andy does have a rather lengthy story about his connection to civic education. And hopefully hope he can come in live or virtually. And I'm going to let him tell that amazing story later because it really wowed the kids in 2019. So we'll save that one for later. But what I do want to say, students, is the civic action law, which basically is the reason why I am your civics teacher this year. And you're going to spend a year of intensive life skills civics as opposed to previously US History 1. And you're going to do this amazing student-led civic project called the Slick Pro. This has a lot to do with Andy because Andy wrote the legislation that became the civic action law, which incorporates so many more things that was passed by both houses that Andy were referencing and then signed into law by Governor Baker. So the question I want to ask you, Andy, is your connection to civic education. It's very, very deep. And, there are hundreds of issues that you could focus on. And you picked this issue. You picked this issue as a member of the Massachusetts State House. So why is this such a huge issue to you? Just give us, this is really, really important to you. So can you just tell the students why it's important to you and why is it important for them to spend an intensive year of hands-on life skills, interactive civics?
Yeah, great question. So for me, it really started when I was in high school. I was a part of a statewide coalition called Teens Leading the Way that asks young people what type of legislation they want to support at the State House. And we kicked around all types of ideas. We said, we want to address climate change. We want to address housing. We want to address police-community relations. And ultimately, what we settled on was civics education. And the reason we settled on civics education is the same reason why I'm still passionate about it today. And that is because if you want to be able to address any of those other issues, if you want to be able to address climate change, gun violence, homelessness, housing, whatever, you name it, you need to have a strongly informed and engaged electorate. And that's a very fancy way of saying you need to have people in our communities that know how government and democracy work. And more importantly, what kind of power they have to influence that government and democracy. Because if we don't have that first, then we can't even begin to address all the other issues that we want to address. And so for me, civics is the foundation to solving all the other societal challenges that we're having. If we don't have people who know how important it is to vote, if we don't have people who know how important it is to show up to your town hall, city council, mayor, or school committee, meetings, if we don't have people who know that they have power as citizens and that is one of the highest offices in the land, then we're not going to have the strongest democracy possible. And it's going to take much longer to solve many of the challenges that we have before us. So I see civics as the foundation to solving everything else.
That's great. And students, Andy talks about, being a junior or senior in high school when, he was getting involved with this, so 17, 18 and you're 13, 14. So really, you're only 4 years younger than when he first got started. So it's really, really important. And as an aside, whether you agree or don't agree with the mask policy, North Andover had its first public school committee meeting. And there was public forum at the beginning, and both sides got to speak and participate. And that was a really great example. Whether you agree or disagree or whatever side you are, those people, their voice was heard. So that's really, really important and a great example that just happened a couple days ago. Okay, so I want to just morph into the next thing, and this is my favorite question because you and I were connected in 2018, 2019. You came in for the first year of the Civics pilot. You came in and spoke to my kids. We had the pandemic, which kind of took the wind out of our sails a little bit. We started up last year with hybrid, and I was able to teach the entire curriculum. You did some virtual things for me. And then you got to come to the Slick Pro Expo in June, and you got to see what's the end results, not the end result, but a consequence of some of your work and what we've been doing. So Andy, what I want you to do is just tell us a little bit about your impressions of the Civics pilot that we've been doing. What have you seen? What were your impressions of the Slick Pro Expo, just kind of being there? And the last thing is, what do you think my students are going to look forward to this year? Because I'm hyping this. I'm promising them a very engaging and exciting year. And I'm going to have people like you and students kind of also share that. So if you could just, touch upon any of those areas in any way that you want, I would really, really appreciate it. I think it'd be very meaningful to my students.
Yeah, so I think after seeing the results and the progress that was made on all the student projects last year, it was super fulfilling for me, because when we were writing this legislation, the main thing that we wanted to make sure was conveyed was that we want students actually doing stuff in the community, right? It's really important to learn about important documents, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, memorizing the preamble, the Bill of Rights, and all that. That is important, right? But the core of civics is actually doing stuff, right? And knowing how you make things happen in your community, how you go about making change. And so I think it was particularly exciting to see at the end of last year all the different project ideas that students had, and the fact that they really grasped this idea that they had to build coalitions, they had to work together with other organizations and other people to be able to actually make change possible. That was super fulfilling to see, and something that I'll definitely thank you, Pat, for letting us be a part of that. And then in terms of what to most look forward to for your students, look, this is a class where you can have many of your most important questions answered around what is my purpose, right? Why am I here on earth, right? You're going to continue to have these questions for years to come, right? Some of you will go to college, some of you will go straight into the workforce. You've got high school and so many other amazing things ahead of you, but this is your opportunity to begin to think about your why, your purpose, right? What do you want to do in this world, in this planet, in this community? And that's really exciting, that this class could be the class that sparks that idea of what you want to do for the rest of your life, or at least, during high school or college or whatever you want to do after. And it's also a class where you can actually start to have very concrete ideas and steps around how to change your community right now. You don't have to wait till you're a quote unquote adult to make change, right? In fact, as a young person, as a student, you have some of the strongest voices that are important in our democracy. When students advocate, when students organize, when students meet or exceed the expectations of adults or elected officials, there's rarely anything that's more powerful than that. And so you have the opportunity with this class to figure out how to leverage that and how to organize your voices to make positive change.
Oh, thank you very, very much. So students, like I said, this is, we're very fortunate to live into this community, North Andover, the Merrimack Valley, to have allies, to have civic allies, to have supporters. You have your parents and I are going to support you this year, but people like Representative Vargas and the other people that are in this welcome video, they're going to be here to support us as well, whether it's coming in or maybe, touching base for your Slick Pros. It's a really, really cool thing. And as I've said before, when I was in school, I did not know who any of these people were. And, hopefully Representative Vargas is going to come in this year, or he's going to do something virtual with us, and we can do that. So I think I'm going to let you close it out. If you just want to say goodbye to the kids and wish them well for their 8th grade year, and then we can call it a day. And I thank you.
Sure. So buena suerte a todos los estudiantes. I just want to say good luck to all of our students. both in English and Spanish. Know that we are entering in a once-in-a-generation opportunity for our country to make serious change, right? You might have learned throughout history that there were different times in our nation's history where there were huge changes in how we helped the most vulnerable in our society, right? Whether that was FDR, and you might have learned about the New Deal, right, and the programs that happened through the New Deal, or it was Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, and expanding healthcare, providing healthcare for millions of Americans. We're in a phase right now where we can make dramatic change in our country and in our communities. And it starts at the local level in classrooms like this with your voices and your passion and the purpose that you find and making a difference in another human being's life. So thank you for the changes you're going to make in your community and beyond.
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. And students, once again, we're going to have a couple more people that are going to be in this welcome video, and you can look forward to that. And I'm going to sign off now. And thank you so Hi, 8B Civics in Action students. It's Mr. McGravy again, and we have yet another civic ally that is part of this welcoming video made for all of you to welcome you to the 8B Civics program. And, we've been all over the place. We've been local and state, and now we're coming back to local. When the town manager was on with Miss Murphy Rodriguez, I jokingly said, we don't have a mayor, and I can say now that we do not have a city council, okay, because we are a town. So we have a member of the select board, Janice Phillips. So Janice, I just want to say good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, everybody. Doing great. Enjoying the last couple of days of summer.
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So Janice was pretty recently elected. So it's kind of cool that I'm sure she's always been in the civic world as a citizen, but now she's involved in the local government area. And I think it's really important that, like the moderator of town meeting, Mr. DeSalvo, and Rick Gorman, who you met, and of course, Melissa Murphy Rodriguez. It's really, really important that we not only know federal and state, but we know our local. Okay, so speaking of local government, I'm going to just start off with a quick little icebreaker question for Janice. So Janice, what is your role in the civic world? Why don't you tell the kids a little bit about the select board, because they probably don't know that much about it.
Definitely. So I am the newest member of the select board. So one thing I know for sure is that I'm learning every single day more about our role in town, but primarily we are a policy-making board. We oversee our town manager, Melissa Murphy Rodriguez, and we actually are there to represent all of the residents of town and their interests. So if anybody has a problem, whether it be street paving or trash or even bigger issues than that, we are absolutely there for any resident of the town to try to help them solve whatever their issue is. So that's the crux of what we do, and it's different every day. And I love the most that I get to meet and interact with many, many, many people who I wouldn't otherwise cross paths with.
That's great. And students, like I've been saying for all of the guests, it's my hope to, have Janice come in, and maybe some of her colleagues on the select board as well, come in and talk to us. Don't really know what's happening live because it is only August, but maybe later on in the fall or perhaps virtually. So we can do that. I think it's really, really important that you all make a connection with her and her colleagues on the select board. And, it's part of the civic world, and it's really, really important. Okay.
We would love to do that.
Oh, absolutely. So the second question I'm going to ask you is, when I did have your older daughter in school when I was a U.S. History 1 teacher, so we have that connection. And then obviously, I'm going to have your son this year as well. And I did get permission from him to do this, and he's cool with it. So we appreciate that. Both of us appreciate that. But what's cool is, last year, because you were one of the local officials, I did some sharing with you of what we were doing. You weren't quite there for the first year of the pilot, but for the second year, I feel very confident that you heard a lot about it. And one of the coolest things for me involving you was at the end of the year when we did the Slick Pro, the student-led civics projects, which I have been talking to the kids about, and I think it's something they're going to enjoy. But you were involved in a couple capacities. So the first capacity was you actually worked with one of my students on his Slick Pro. So you were part of the lever of change where he reached out to you about a very interesting topic, which is the new park that was supposed to be built near the Atkinson and between the middle school. And we learned a lot in that. I'll be talking about that quite a bit with the kids. And then you came back in June and you were a panelist for the Slick Pro Exposition of Learning, and you got to hear from other students in their involvement of that. So what I would like to talk to you about, if that's okay, is what were your impressions of the pilot? What were your impressions of the program? Whether it be as a parent or a citizen or as an elected official. What were your impressions about the Slick Pro that you were working on? And then lastly, what do you think the kids I think they're really going to have a great year. And what do you think they could look forward to this year in the class? So if you want to touch upon any of those in any order, this is the most important question for me because I think it's really important for the kids to know what they've signed up for.
Well, first of all, I can guarantee you are going to have a lot of fun. So that was pretty obvious during my involvement last year. So I'm excited for that for you guys. Second of all, as a parent and as a select board member and as a citizen of this town, one of the things that is so exciting to me about this program is that it is allowing you, teaching you how to be engaged in your communities from such a young age. One of the things that keeps people from being involved is because they're afraid. They don't know what to expect and they don't know how to do it. And so you guys going through this program now gives me so much hope for our future and the incredible involvement that you'll all feel like you can have and the things that you can contribute to in your communities as you get even now and as you get a little bit older. So that's the other sort of important takeaway for me is like, it's never too early, right? Like the end of the year last year, we saw some great projects, things that we definitely should consider as a community. So what I am so impressed by is the depth of thought that you guys put into this program and sort of where it takes you throughout the year. The end results are pretty amazing. So I think you're in for a really exciting year. So, and I'm looking forward to where it takes you in the future.
That's great. And and I know amazing is a strong word, but I use it for this program and what I've seen in 3 years. And it's a word that I've heard from many people. And one of the coolest things, students, was for me, I mean, I'm a little biased because these are my students. And of course, I think they're the greatest thing in the world. But then when I see people like Janice and state senators and members of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and they're like blown away with what all of you are doing, it's great. And I think, hopefully for many of you, it's going to be like a life skills class. It's not, like I said in one of the other videos, this is not a textbook packet take notes class. It's very, very different than what you're used to. And for some of you, that's going to be a transition. I had some kids that were on board immediately. And then I had other kids, it took them till December to kind of be like, okay, I think I'm figuring this out a little bit. It's very, very different. And if it does feel different, or if you feel uncomfortable, or it feels kind of weird, that is totally normal. And, just roll on with it, and I stick with it. And I think it's something that you're going to really, really enjoy. Okay. So Janice, I'm going to kind of end this. This was kind of like a mini talk to get the kids all pumped about everything. I'm just going to let you close it out by wishing them a wonderful school year and just kind of ending our little welcome video from the member of the North Andover Select Board. So thank you.
Thank you. I really wish you all well. I want you to remember that if you work hard and you work together, anything is possible, and you contribute a lot to our communities. So have a great time, learn a lot, and can't wait to see you during the year.
Excellent. So students, once again, we have another civic ally in our community. These are people, like I said, I'm pulling for you. Your parents are pulling for you. You have lots of people in the community that are pulling for you and supporting you and want you to do very, very well. That's what a community should be like. And I think we're very, very fortunate here in North Andover. Okay, so this segment is over. And I believe we just have a couple more. I'll see you in the next segment. Hi again, 8B Civics in Action students. This is Mr. McGravy, your civics teacher. Once again, we have another civic ally that is here to wish you all well, to get you excited about the 8B Civics in Action pilot this year. I'll just say a quick hello to Senator Bruce Tarr. Hello, Senator Tarr.
Hello, Mr. McGravy. It's great to be with you, particularly at the beginning of a school year that's going to have so much potential to be realized by you and your students.
Absolutely. And I have to say that Senator Tarr, students, he did come in live before the pandemic. We're hoping maybe we can get him in live again, when things settle down. He did, come in, during the pandemic virtually last year for the students. And he was one of the civic actors that critiqued some of the Slick Pro projects. So this is the third year that I'm working with Senator Tarr, and so he knows a lot about the program, and he's always been a huge supporter of this. So Senator Tarr, I'm going to start out with just allowing you to introduce yourself and talk about how you fit in the civic world to my students. We just love to hear a little introduction about you.
Sure. Well, great. So I am State Senator Bruce Tarr, and I really hold two roles here at the State House. I am the minority leader of the Massachusetts State Senate, which means that I lead floor efforts and other things on behalf of the minority party in the State House. And I also am very proud to represent 17 communities, one city and 16 towns on the northeastern part of Massachusetts. And that spans Cape Ann and North Shore and also the Merrimack Valley. And so I am involved here in policy at the State House, but also very much involved in helping folks with the day-to-day things that they might need from state government. And the overarching thing, Mr. McGravy, is the fact that civics is the infrastructure by which all of those things happen. And so that's why I'm such a fan of civics education, have been a supporter of it, and been a supporter to get legislation passed to actually make it a requirement in our schools. And I'm always excited to see in your classroom and with your program how that requirement that started here at the State House is coming to life in the classroom and in the community in North Andover. So I am here to play a variety of roles, but civics is integral to all of them.
So students, as you just heard from Senator Tarr, we are together for a year of intensive civics in 8th grade, and you are doing a student-led civic action project at the end of the year called Slick Pro, and that is the result of a law that Senator Tarr was involved in, and both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and then the governor signing it. So we're actually living some of the things, one of the many things that Senator Tarr is involved in. The other thing, students, that I just wanted to mention is Senator Tarr talked about being the minority leader. The majority party in Massachusetts is Democrat, and the minority is Republican. Governor Baker is a Republican. Senator Tarr is a Republican. But what I really love about the civic allies that we have here, Democrat, Republican, they all work together. I met Senator Tarr because of Representative Minokuchi. She brought us together. And also Senator Dosaglio. Also, I think I was supposed to do a tour with my history camp. Something was happening, and Senator Dosaglio couldn't be there. And Senator Tarr picked it up, and they work together, and that's how I got to meet Senator Tar. So that's a common theme that we're going to be hearing this year, students, is it's discourse and working together and disagreeing respectfully. And it's just such a privilege to have people from different political parties all contributing to my program. So it's just so great. Okay, so Senator Tar, the second question is my favorite question, because as I said, you saw this civics pilot in its infancy in year one when you came in live in 2019. 2020, obviously we had the pandemic, but we did teach the full curriculum. Obviously you did a Google Meet with me during there. But what we were able to do is the students and I were able to teach the entire curriculum and do a student-led civic project. 120 kids. My new students are hearing about these Slick Pros, and you were nice enough to come in a couple months ago on the Slick Pro Expo to give feedback. So Senator Tar, what I'd like you to talk about as someone who's kind of seen the journey and seen how far we've come, what have your impressions of the pilot been? What were your impressions of the Slick Pro Expo when you actually got to see students in action? And then lastly, what do you think my students can look forward to this year in civics class? So if you could touch upon any of those, I'd really appreciate it.
So, Mr. McGravy, those are a lot of questions compacted into one. So let me try to cover some of them. First of all, it's been a real pleasure to watch your program evolve since the state infrastructure was put into place and the state requirements, to see you be able to run with the ball and be able to go from having classroom exposure to real issues and having students research those issues. And, one of the things that you mentioned is the fact that we have legislators that represent North Andover, and to be more specific, there are 4 of us, and we are in different parties, but we work together, and we never let differences of opinion, because we all have differences of opinion about different issues. We never let those things be obstacles to us collaborating on behalf of the people we represent. And I've seen that come right into your classroom, where students research various issues, they have an exchange of ideas, they have a good discussion. It's the kind of thing I think we should be modeling for future leaders, and those future leaders are coming right through the door of your classroom. Now, with regard to the Slick Pro projects, what was amazing to me about that is the depth of the research that the students had, but also the connection of that research and the connection of the projects to real issues, and some of them actually surprised me, that students had identified things that were facing the community, and they developed a solution and put it on the radar screen. And to be honest, the legislative delegation is still talking about some of the ideas that were raised by those projects, and we look forward to doing some more follow-through to be able to address some of those issues that were raised with such eloquence and articulation by the students that are in your project and in your program. So what students can look for with regard to the Slick Pro projects is going out into the world and finding something that matters to you, matters to the rest of the community, matters to the state, and then finding a way to make a difference about that issue. And that's something that we all should be engaged in every day. We don't all have to be elected officials. We don't all have to be appointed officials, but we all should realize our responsibility as members of our society to be able to engage in the civic life of that society. And that means asking every day, what can I do to help? And what issue can I address? And that, to me, is what Slick Pro is all about.
Thank you so much for answering the multifaceted question. You got it all in, Senator Tar. You covered everything. You get the A+ for answering that question.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. So students, I keep on saying this in these videos that we're watching, but I'm going to say it again. You have so much support this year. You have me, you have your parents, you have each other, and you have these civic allies, these friends in the world of civics. Senator Tar comes in not because he has to, he comes in because he wants to. And, when he spends a Saturday looking at Slick Pro Expos, I could tell he was completely engaged and he was enjoying it. And I'm so glad he highlighted the research piece, because that is one of the things that impressed him. And, when we get to the Slick Pro and I talk about research. A lot of you are going to moan and groan and roll your eyes, but those kids were so happy that they had thorough research to back up a very, very sophisticated conversation about an issue that they had with some of their elected leaders, which was a really great thing to see. So Senator Tarr, we're going to kind of wrap things up. I do want to say that it's going to be an exciting, great year, just like you said at the outset. I totally agree with you. I'm hoping to continue my Civics in Action talks live, hopefully, or virtually if we have to. So the students will definitely be seeing you again and having that connection with you, which was a great time when you came in to talk with them. So I'm just going to let you end the conversation in this welcome video and just wish my 122 students well, and whatever you'd like to say to round things up. And I so appreciate you being in this welcome video.
Well, thanks, Mr. McGravy. I'm delighted to do it, and I'm so excited for what's going to happen in the program over the coming year. As I mentioned at the outset, we have been watching you grow this program and develop and evolve it, not only based on your ideas, but the ideas of your students. And it's been really impressive to watch that happen, and I am very eager to see what's going to happen this year. But I know some of the things that are going to happen is you're going to have good discussion, good engagement, good involvement. And that not only is going to be important to the life of the school and to the academic pursuits of the students, but it's really going to be important to all of us in the community. We all look forward to that. Of course, we'll all be delighted to participate. We always love getting the call from you, telling us how we can help, and we always want to help. So my best wishes to all 122 of you for a great year in all of your academic pursuits, but certainly in civics, because civics, again, is the infrastructure. It is the construct by which we achieve our very best ideas to help us all get stronger and better and happier and more prosperous.
Thank you. That's a great way to end, Senator Tarr. Thank you. Students, once again, it is about you. This class is about you, and I'm so glad that Senator Tarr brought it back to all of you. So I believe this is the second to last welcome that you're going to be getting. We have one more to wrap things up, and I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Hello again, 8B Civics in Action students. This is Mr. McGravy, and this is the final welcome for the welcome video with all our civic allies. You've been seeing a wide variety of people at the local and state level, and who we're going to have on now is State Representative Trom Nguyen, who I've been fortunate enough to be working with the civics pilot for about 3 years, maybe even longer than that. Hello, Trom, how are you?
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this video.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about where you fit in the civic world. You're a civic actor, you're a civic ally to myself and my students. So just tell us a little bit about how you fit into the world of civics. That would be a nice introduction.
Well, I appreciate the initial introduction, Mr. McGravy. So as introduced, I'm Trom Nguyen. I'm a state representative of the 18th Essex District, which includes parts of North Andover, but in addition to that, also Andover, Boxford, and Tewksbury.
Excellent. And could you tell us a little bit, because my students really haven't had that much of a background in civics. So could you tell them a little bit about some of the things that you do as state representative, where you fit into the world of civics, just as an interactive testimonial from you as a civic actor? That would be great.
Absolutely. So I was elected to represent the people of the 4 towns. And as I'm sure many of you know, there are 160 state representatives throughout the Commonwealth and also 40 state senators. And so I work with my colleagues to study state laws and make changes that will benefit the people of our districts and throughout the Commonwealth. And ideally, we want to make sure that we are working on policies that affect people and their lives. And as I'm sure you've seen, especially during this time of the COVID pandemic, how essential it is for the state government and the people to have a partnership and have a dialogue to make sure that we are all working together. And not only that, but to work at different levels of government as well, working with the local government as well as working with the federal government to make sure that we are providing resources to the people. But in addition to that, we also work on the state budget, on things like funding education. As you all know, you're benefiting from that, as well as transportation, public health, human services, and so much more to make sure that the people in the Commonwealth have what they need to have thriving lives.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So the second question is a series of questions, but it's my favorite. Students, I've been working with Representative Nguyen for 3 years now. In 2019, before the pandemic, she actually came in for a Civics in Action talk, and it was really a very interactive thing for my students. It was just a wonderful, wonderful day. And then I was fortunate enough to reconnect with Trom during the pandemic, and we actually did a pandemic themed show, and the students last year got to interact with her virtually. But the last thing is she was nice enough to come in on the Slick Pro Expo, the student-led civics projects, and she was able to give some honest and open feedback to what you're going to be doing next spring, which is the student-led civics project. So she's kind of been with me for a couple of years, so she definitely has seen the program grow and change over time. So, Trom, I just want you to just briefly, what have your impressions of the civics pilot been? What do you think the kids are going to look forward to or should look forward to this year? And then just share us some of your impressions of the students in the Slick Pro Expo. I'd love you to touch upon those to kind of talk to the kids about what they're going to be doing this year.
Well, first of all the students are so lucky to have you, Mr. McGravy, as their teacher. You're just so interactive, and you try to find such creative ways to get them involved. And students, you have so much to look forward to in the civics class. You'll learn about how government works at all different levels, at the town level, the state level, and federally. And, in the Gettysburg Address, President Lincoln spoke about the government of the people, for the people, right? By the people, for the people. And this is how government should work at every single level in our country. And so every citizen has the right to be involved in the governing process. And you're starting so early to learn what that process is, because in order to be engaged, you need to understand it. And that's exactly what you'll take away from this class, is to have a better understanding of how policy impacts you and how you can impact policy. And that's just a very powerful thing. And I'm always a big proponent of involvement, especially from our youth, because the future is yours, and you have all inspired me so much in the work that we do, because we want to make this country better for the next generation. That's you all. So, and we want to make sure that we hear from you and what are your interests. And in terms of the projects that Mr. McGravy has been talking about, it is fascinating to me to see how you can find a problem, find a solution, and propose these solutions to us so that we can start thinking about how we can support these interests of yours. And that's what we'll continue to do as you progress in this course.
Great. Thank you so much. And it was so great to have Trom and some of her colleagues in the civic world, be in 2019 and then in June of 2021 kind of see, and this is obviously a very, very important issue to Trom, civic education. And it's crystal clear that when she is a civic ally, she is a supporter. I keep on saying this, students, you have a lot of people pulling for you this year. Myself, your parents, and people like Trom. They're really, really excited about what you're doing, and they're very, very proud of you. And that was very, very evident in the Slick Pro Expo. It was a magical day, and hopefully the Slick Pro Expo will be live depending on how things are going. That's what I really would love to do. And I'm also hoping, fingers crossed, that Representative Nguyen can come in live as well, because that was a great day. Okay, so Trom, this was so great. It was so nice of you to take time out of your day to welcome my students to 8B Civics. And I'm just going to let you wrap things up. They have hopefully it's going to be a great year, and you just I'll let you sign off and just wish them well and say goodbye in any way you'd like.
Absolutely. Well, so I encourage you all to learn as much as you can about the local, state, and national government, but also to think about how to get more involved, perhaps even run for office one day, you know, whether it's at the local level or at the state level, like I did, or even at the federal level. I would love to see one of you run for president one day, for instance. But until then, if you have any questions at all about the state government, please reach out to my office. We're happy to hear from you. In fact, we're filing a bill that's proposed by a group of students in Andover, something you could think about as well. They're trying to establish an amphibian, a state amphibian, for instance, and we want to hear about what interests you. So please reach out to my office. And when you reach high school or college, if you want to intern for my office or any of the legislators' offices, that's something to think about as well. So you can see firsthand how civics works in action. And so I'm really thrilled to be a part of, your journey here, to be a civics ally and to work with Mr. McGravy to support all of your work.
That's great. And students, I've heard a lot in those, remarks and from others. This is going to be a fun, engaging year, but I also heard some opportunity in there. And so it's really, really important that you take advantage of opportunities and you reach out to me or you reach out to other people, and you never know what's going to happen. So this is the final welcoming video, students, and it's going to be an amazing year. What a great way to kick things off. And I am going to end the recording now, and thank you very much.